Come on, load, load, load.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of the Outer Realm Radio. We are broadcasting live, thankfully, via International Public Radio on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. It was a little bit hairy there. We thought we were going to be a little bit later because, of course, New Orleans is under hurricane watch. So if we cut out, sorry, apologize right now. It could happen. This evening's segment, of course, and every evening segment is sponsored by the amazing folks over at, that's right, Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers. No one loves you more than Amelia and I promise.
Oh, my God.
Tonight, we welcome back both Dr. Kathleen Ball and Mr. Shawn Williamson. Both have been on independently, and they are collaborating on Templar research, focusing on symbols, esoteric backgrounds, things of that nature. Sounds exciting. They have a whole lot going on, but it's sort of nice to see them teaming up. Now, in order to participate in tonight's show, please head on over to the various streams that we have. International Public Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube pages. Subscribe would be nice. Twitch. And I'm not sure if we're on Twitter or not tonight, but we do have at least 3 Facebook streams going for the network. But if you want to be able to ask questions and get acknowledged right away, you have to tag Amelia only on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network YouTube page. So settle on in and get ready for a really awesome segment, which it's always awesome with these guys. So we're just waiting because I'm guessing you're tagging me.
I'm just getting there now. Yeah, we're just running a little bit behind.
Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to go in and approve this on my page, and then we can get the show on the road. Of course, we're just going to spin on the little wheel for a little while. There we go.
I still have to share it on Canada's Most Haunted.
Okay, good. This is good. My gosh.
We're just a little bit behind. It's a crazy day. We have really bad storms here as well. So
we're not too bad here. Little dark, but grateful that we don't have, the terrible stuff coming in off the Gulf, which is sort of nice.
It got hairy here a couple of hours ago when I heard from Joe, and I'm like, because I was just asking him if he got something in the mail, and I heard from him, and he's like, we have a hurricane watch here. I'm like, wow, because
I know
here it was storming so bad. The winds were so high, yet they were reported as only 8 kilometers an hour. I'm like, not where I live, because I'm on top of a mountain, so it was crazy.
They're saying Toronto possibly 100 millimeters of rain. That's a lot of freaking
downtown
rain.
Toronto it's really sad for them if they get that kind of rain, because it just comes back up out of the sewers. Like, it's just nasty.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
I know it's brutal.
Just nasty. So
I know. So
I know.
Are we ready to go? Bring our guest in, because I know it's quite late in the UK for Shawn, so I don't want to make him wait too long.
Yep,
if we're ready to go. Yes, good. Yeah. All right. There he is. Hello.
Hi.
And there she is. Hello. There we go.
Hi, Amelia.
Hi. How are you guys?
Good. So how's California faring up with the weather?
I was just talking with my husband, and we have 156,000 acres all around us right now.
Oh, no.
It's still quite a ways. It's still quite a distance from us. So we're, it's coming down this back canyon, and it's just burning out of control at this point. Still, they have it. I think it's 9% contained or something at this point.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's
but we're not on evacuation standing at this point. We're still just waiting. But my friends up in Sonora just got the evacuation notice, so they're packing up.
Wow. Fingers crossed for you then. I know we're under in New Orleans a hurricane watch. So if we drop off, it's just, that's the sort of the cost of having a show in New Orleans. So Shawn, how are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty normal here at the moment. Not great weather extremes. I'm on Lake Windermere, and all is good as can be expected.
Well,
Yeah,
that's good. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, somebody's getting decent weather. Excellent. So it's really nice to have you both back on the show, but it's a real treat to have you both together. It's kind of nice to see, because some of our, to see all of our guests sort of crisscrossing and doing things together. And I really like where it's all going. So who wants to start?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start with some of the most recent. We'll do a recap, I guess.
Yeah, well, we can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, most everyone know, our viewers pretty much know Shawn's background. Working with Andrew Sinclair and doing the research for Andrew Sinclair for so many years, and his primary occupation as an amazing sculptor, which is something that we both share. We both come from that background of art, and I sculpted in clay and bronze, and he does relief, which is completely opposite from what I'm actually. What you do, Shawn, kind of frightens me, to look at a block of stone and I think of making mistakes. All you have to do is hit this the wrong way one time and you just destroy it. So I opted for clay. That was something that I was really familiar with as a child, and I continued to work in clay as an adult in sculpting. So we have, we share backgrounds, and we also, share a lot of interests in the Templars, which, Shawn, if you want to go into your background and how you became familiar with the Templars, I'm really interested in hearing about that.
Well, yeah, I think, I've gone over this kind of in the past, but it's worth going over again. I trained as a stonemason and went to college. I was on the Great Lakes before then, art college in Toronto. And whilst I was on the lakes, I became interested in the Templars. And hey-ho, later on found out that it was synchronistically connected to, my later life, which I didn't know at the time. So I connected with the Sinclairs. My family history was that we were from the Clan Gun, who were allies to the Sinclairs. And lo and behold, in 2000, I ended up as sculptor to the Clan Sinclair. And that's around the time that I met Andrew Sinclair and got involved with some quite heavy research in Rosslyn Chapel. He used to call me his man of stone. And I used to call him my man of words. So
that's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it is. That's great.
Andrew passed away 2019. He was 86, I believe, and he handed me a lot of his research, which I'm persisting in carrying on with. And on the main, I make a living as a sculptor. Sometimes I go back into masonry work where I'm doing church repairs and restoration, anything from building walls to architectural carving. And, recently I've had some good commissions in stone, one for the Chilean embassy, Piloto Pardo, who rescued Shackleton's crew in Antarctica. That's going to be unveiled in London in November. So quite pleased with the way things are going,
Very, very nice.
Yeah, that piece you sent me, the photo you sent me, was marvelous. I love the work. I'm really a fan of your work. And it looked like a griffin.
Beautiful.
It's fabulous piece.
That's what you would call architectural carving, and the interesting thing I found out about the gargoyles. This will be good for outer realm people, but the gargoyles on Notre Dame Cathedral, fabulous works. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a special denomination of stone carvers, and I'll come back on point in a minute, but special denomination of stone carvers called imaginators, because they imagined these beasts, which were essentially to protect the cathedral from evil. And so anytime you see a postcard of Notre Dame with the gargoyles on, they were carved by imaginators. And
fascinating.
Yeah, the carvers were different from the stonemasons on a cathedral structure. Usually the craft was passed down from father to son or father to daughter, in actual fact. And that's how it worked. But you couldn't get onto a cathedral. A stone carver was seen as subordinate to a stonemason. And I think that's something to do with the masons were like, you can imagine them as engineers in stone, whereas the stone carvers were more creative. But you could get into a cathedral or big church or abbey as a stone carver if your father wasn't a stonemason. So that's roughly how it worked.
Right.
Excellent.
Well, fascinating to me. I didn't know that there was such a thing as an imaginator, which, that explains a lot, because having traveled through Europe and especially in Tomar, I was fascinated with all of the, all the sculpture, architectural sculpture throughout Tomar. It's the castle there, or the Convent de Cristo, was just filled. I spent 3 days and didn't even photograph. I don't even think I photographed half of what was there. And the pieces were just magnificent, and they looked to be imaginative. That's what struck me. They looked to be like they came from someone's imagination. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them did. So it's really interesting that you mention imaginators. I think that's fascinating. That answers a lot of questions for me.
No, I like that. Some of my favorite architecture.
Yeah.
Funny that.
My background in art was started as a child. I started playing with wax figures. I don't know if you remember, if you remember the little wax things that were filled with juice. And you would suck the juice.
Sadly. Yes.
Well, so that was my first medium, was and I sculpted all sorts of figures and little dogs and cats and whatever, all this stuff. And then my mother put them up in the attic one year after I had moved away, and they all melted.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
But that was my first medium. And then I moved on to clay and into painting, and back into clay, which was really my first love. I loved to move the clay, and I loved to create something. I used to drive my car and just manipulate the clay and create something while I was driving, just subconsciously or whatever. Mm-hmm. But and I devoted my life to that for many years. I was a sculptor for 35 years, and a professor at the colleges here, and taught anatomy and all the sculpture classes and multimedia classes. But the inspiration for my work always came from in-depth research. I studied all of the religious and spiritual belief systems around the world, and so that was input. I studied the Sumerian texts and all the Sumerian gods and goddesses. I did those, and I did the Nephilim. I did a series of the Nephilim from the Bible, from the Old Testament and the Bible. All sorts of things like that. I did a huge installation in San Francisco that I used the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, as the understructure. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of portraiture from history. Leonardo da Vinci was one of my primary. I loved drawing him and sculpting him. I just absolutely. He fascinated me. Everything about him fascinated me. So. Mm-hmm. Which the piece, I do have one piece that's in the Da Vinci Museum in Vinci, Italy, that I did.
Oh, very nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
he
very
had
nice.
A unique profile, didn't he?
Right. Mm-hmm. So when my house burned down, that all came to a stop, and all my artwork burned up and all my curriculum. So my secondary interest was historical sites and ancient sites. And so the story, when I went into Dome, France in 2009, and that just sort of propelled me into this research with the Templars, because everywhere I went, I was running across Templar information, historical documents, and I really had no idea where it was leading. And I was just fascinated with it. I was just on this trail, this quest, and I had no idea where I was going with it until I found the cave in 2015. You know, when that happened, right? When that happened, it all started making sense. You know, it all started coming together. And then I realized when my grandparents passed away, my grandfather, that our family had been Templars in Scotland. And so it was, I think it was in my DNA, you know, same with you. You mentioned, Shawn, that your family history were also allied with the Sinclairs, which of course were Templars. So I think we share a lot of things, you know, in terms of our history and where we're at today, comparing symbols and comparing notes and comparing some of our research. I recently was able to get back into Brazil, and this time I was actually able to go into the cave and photograph all of the graffiti that was in the cave, and came away with some really, really.
You just came back from Brazil.
Yeah, I just got back. Yeah,
Right. I know you're limited to what you can say, but so you get some interesting photos, some carvings, and more information. And
right. What I can say is that many of the drawing or the graffiti, the etchings into the rock wall in the caves, matched up precisely with some that I had seen and photographed in Dome, France.
Right.
And then more recently, a researcher from Portugal contacted me and showed me some photographs, actually, of a building in Peniche, Portugal, a building that was actually constructed in 1099 with some of the same symbols.
Wow.
So, so I'm now looking at maybe even stretching my dates back even further. We're going to really have to get in depth with these symbols that are found in there, but I'm really looking at pushing some dates back with this cave now because according to my researcher and friend in Peniche, Portugal, the Templars left as early as 1200.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting for sure.
And he has documentation that he's willing to show me, and he's willing to. So my next trip, I thought was going to be to the UK. I thought I was going to be coming to the UK to meet with you, Shawn, and to meet with several other people that I was able to meet with. And it looks like they were still locked down with this COVID thing. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into Portugal or not, but if I can, that's probably going to be my next trip because of the research there and the people that are there. They're willing and ready to open up their information to me. There's families there that have decided they want to come forward. So I'm really, I'm really.
That's exciting.
And that brings me to what I recently sent you, Shawn, was the families that were of the Knights, the Order of Knights, that were created during the second building of the temple in Jerusalem that Zerubbabel put together to protect the builders of the temple. I'm hoping to find some connections with family names, and I'm hoping that if we can work together, maybe we can dig up some of that information. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's interesting, and I've just been genning up on the idea of the warrior masons of Zorobabel, which of course is a second temple, and how Zorobabel was reputed to have come out of captivity in Babylon, and when I think around the same time, if I've got this right, that the Persians start to destroy the Babylonian Empire, which, of course, is written, which God, of course, wanted. So, and I'd seen a tract from Sir Isaac Newton that said that Nehemiah and Zorobabel were the same person. Well, of course, Nehemiah was the man that started to rebuild the temple walls under God's protection, shall we say. And the idea that they are one and the same, according to Isaac Newton, brings another dimension. You know, I had no idea of that, but I'm going to explore it further. It's not cast in iron yet, but that could really take research in a different direction, because as of yet, everything's based around the Temple of Solomon, and the idea, and which also pinged another thing, that one of the tracks carved in the walls of Roslin Chapel is actually one of Zorobabel's statement, and that is, if I can remember it, wine is strong, women are stronger, but
Yes.
truth conquers all. So that was an interesting illustration in Roslin Chapel, which of course is always thought to have been in some part a replica of the Temple of Solomon. But if in fact it's more connected somehow to Zorobabel's temple, and how that differed from the Temple of Solomon, that presents another interesting dimension on what you've just said regarding the lineage of Templars in South America, and
Yes.
tracing their bloodlines back to the original Second Temple builders, so to speak.
Right.
It's exciting.
And it was in the vested interest. There's a whole book. It's a book on Freemasonry. It's got 33 on the top of it, and it's the Freemasonry in the U.S., I believe, or America, or something to that. I sent you the title. Anyway, it mentions, the whole book is a documentation of the Templar descendants and Masons having been hunted down by the Jesuit priests in the 18 and murdered. So this had been mentioned to me before, but I hadn't found any documented proof until I got back into the Rosicrucian Library after the COVID lifted somewhat. They opened their hours for 4 hours on Saturday, and I was able to get in and get this and photograph the whole book, both of them. I photographed everything. So I'd have the notes and I wouldn't have to go back down there. But so it corroborated with what the Masons had told me in Brazil. I have several Mason friends in Brazil, that they were actually hunted down, and that the descendants, any descendants or Templar descendants, that's where their primary targets were. And they went after these people, and they wanted to annihilate everybody that had any Templar ancestry and were current Masons in South America. This wasn't just in Brazil either. There's, in this book, I really hope you can get a copy of this book, Shawn, because in this book, it states country by country what happened. And there were even witnesses to this that stated these statements in this book. Country by country, they went through and just systematically tried to annihilate every single Templar descendant and Mason that they could find.
Wow,
that'd be interesting to see those pages. The ones that you sent through were, thank you for that. Were a little blurred, so I'd love to be able to get more into that information. Because I'm hoping
to get back into the Rosicrucian Library here. I'm going down again on next Friday, a week from tomorrow, and I'm hoping to take an actual camera and get some better photographs of that. I went through those 500 pages. I just quickly photographed them, and I'm looking at my notes, and they're not real clear. They're kind of blurry. But once I do get those really good photographs, I will send you copies. If you can, I don't know if you're able to request that as a research book, because I can't take it out. It's only, I can only see it and use it as a research book in the Rosicrucian Library. I cannot take it out. So.
Yeah, no, I'll try and find it from other sources as well, which is another angle on that. But in my novel Questus, I have the the Lost Templar fleet going to South America, and it being found later. But very interesting line of research that, and from my research on vessels that were lost in South America, ships, etc. A lot of the reports were the predominant academics at the time in South America were obviously the Jesuits, and they ranged far and wide all over. And
Yes.
it's an interesting dynamic that they should be at some point, attacking Templar families. And
I was shocked. I was actually really shocked to see that widespread, systematic amount, it was just rampant. It appeared to be rampant. And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that were murdered.
That's terrible. That's terrible. It sort of reminds you a little bit of the 1307 roundup. It's just on a different scale.
Well, the book is dubbed the Scarlet Book. It's actually called the Scarlet Book because of the bloodshed, because of the blood flowing.
It's terrible. That's just terrible.
Yeah.
How many family lines did they wipe out? You think about that. That's pretty intense.
Well, it also explains the difficulty, that I've had trying to track down Templar history in Brazil and South America. People have just kept their mouths shut. They didn't, for their survival. I mean, they just didn't want to say anything, which is also true in Europe because we had the same situation going on after the Inquisition came in.
Mm-hmm.
And people were, pretty hush-hush. But from what I understand in Portugal, according to my source, that there are families that are now willing to come forward. So that's huge. That's huge.
So after finding, more carvings and such in the cave, and you're starting to branch out with this information, can you talk about what you guys are hoping to put together with all of this, the end result?
Well, we do know, and I can divulge now, that the cave is a gold mine.
Right. You suspected that, yeah.
Which brings a whole other dimension. And one of my researchers in Brazil he's written several books. He's an historian. He was also a professor at the University of Brasilia until he retired, Luis Salvi. He spoke on the first documentary, and he also filmed him, and I interviewed him again for the second documentary. And he's going to be giving some information that connects the Templars coming into Brazil much earlier with the blessing of King Dinas. So that tells you the time frame, that we're talking about 1315, somewhere around there. So, and also he's going to be talking about the ports that they left from. So, so there's going to be some really, really great information in this next documentary.
Mm-hmm. So I guess Shawn comes in, and your job is to look at these symbols, work with the symbols,
and drink all the wine.
Yay! Pass them on. I'm down for some wine.
Sounds like a proper UK team.
That's right. Yay!
No, I'm involved with different projects, and evaluating carved images and incisions and things like that. I'm also I have been involved in validating forgeries as well, to some extent, from antiquity. So it's just based on a process of analyzing tool marks and being able to try and date stones. I mean, I've written a paper recently called "Evidence of Knights Templar Tombstones," which it will be out soon. It's finished and edited. But one of the images that Kathleen had sent over was interesting because it was like a cross with an upright cross with a cross of St. Andrew in the middle of it, which sort of spanned the cardinal points of the compass. And that appears, that was like an abbreviation of one of the types of Templar tombstones I discovered with Andrew, which we can now bring to light. And that was after the dissolution of the Templars. There was a type of stone which had the cardinal points in the form of a ship's wheel on the Templar stones. Initially, I thought it was like the wheel of St. Catherine, but then there seems to be some kind of merging of St. Catherine's wheel and the cardinal points of the compass, as if.
Oh, right. It's my child. This is great. Who knows I'm doing a show, by the way? This has happened like twice.
I like that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. You'll have to send me that. That's when the hand comes up, isn't it, in the monsters?
Exactly. I'm really feeling sorry right now.
I'm really feeling sorry for her son right now. I'm just saying.
Although this is my daughter. It's great.
Oh, there you go.
I know. It's lovely. It's lovely. That's good grief. Okay, so keep going. Let's see if I get a text with an emergency.
Yeah. So anyway, it's we validated one set of tombstones, shall we say, pre-dissolution Templar. I've got the pictures, I've got the images, I've got the actual proof now, and none of the major heritage organisations in the UK have managed to do that. But it was actually my friend Hugh Douglas, a very great stonemason in Edinburgh, that discovered these tombstones at Temple Ballantradock. But oddly enough, when I was the keeper of the Sinclair Lighthouse in Scotland, the study centre in 2016, I came across a ground scan report showing the stones, but nobody had ever done anything about them. That was done by another Sinclair that was ground scanning around Rosslyn and then went on to Temple Ballantradock, which of course was the Knights Templar headquarters in Scotland. This is where these tombstones appear in reality, and Hugh dug them up and took photographs of them, and they're documented in my paper. So these are what I call ring cross tombstone, which is another form. It's hard to describe, only that the mechanism, the circular mechanism, the four circles together actually create a Templar cross hidden in plain sight. And then we've got the later tombstones, which is the wheel cross type, which appears on one of the Sinclair's tombstones, William Sinclair. I think it's dated 1325. Wow. So my interest has been in the continuation of the Templar Order and how that was done with the help of the Sinclairs.
Right.
That's fantastic. Anything like the Sinclairs, let's face it, had it. Let's just say they had sort of like their finger on everything. They knew what was going on, I think, more than anyone.
They seem to have been sort of the hub, almost the core that connected a lot of the Templars. Their name pops up everywhere I look. And the research that I do, their name pops up everywhere. So I'm not surprised. Shawn, have you been out to Temple and seen? I'm sure you have the Temple, the town of Temple itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's where Shug Douglas was doing masonry repairs, and obviously Temple Ballantradock is nearby, and that's where these tombstones were discovered, which obviously links intimately the Templars with Ballantradock, and of course it was their headquarters. But there's always been, toing and froing regarding the Templar tombstones, and there's an enormous amount of these stones all over the country, but particularly from Cumbria and into Scotland, The interesting thing about Cumbria is that at certain points in time, it was actually, this is where I live, it was actually part of Scotland. So the borders changed according to the battles between the Scots and the English. But it's interesting to see that we discovered many of the similar types of tombstones in Cumbria, you know, and obviously very similar to the type that we discovered in Scotland as well.
Right. Yeah. When I was in Scotland in 2019, I was hoping to connect with Andrew Sinclair, but we were hit and miss. I just wasn't able to, and then of course he passed not very long after that. But I did go to the kirkyards all through Scotland. I went through all the kirkyards and photographed anything that I looked that might even be remotely connected to the Templars. So I was hoping to bring those photographs with me when I come, and I will be able to come eventually. I'm sure I'll be able to get into the UK and, you know, bring those notes, because I have a ton of notes that I want to share with you, and photographs that I took that I was really hoping to connect with you for your expertise and see what you made of it. You know, I got out into the islands, into the Orkneys, and all over. I just, I photographed my husband's, you know, it was supposed to be a vacation kind of thing for him too. And here I am going to I'm hauling him to the graveyards in every place we went. So he wasn't.
That's an adventure. You know, who can say they do that except for me on a vacation, hang out in graveyards and looking at stone. I love old, you know, headstones and markers.
It depends where you are, though, really. It depends where you are, because not every nation can go back that far. Not every country is that old. So it really depends where you are. For me, anyway. If there's a beach, you know, I'm not going to look at a grave. I'm just saying. I've said it before.
Well, I'm
love
sorry.
Architecture and everything, but unless it's like Pisa, because we all know how much I need to go back there, and I need to go there. But yeah.
So
I did it in Salem. It was pretty fascinating.
We need to set up a tour company for this. I think, you know, get everybody on board.
I think so.
Fun.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, that would be really great, because I just got done having this conversation. We all have a piece to this puzzle. And I mean, there's so many of us now that are involved in this, in this research. There's several of us now. It would be great to really be able to get everyone together and, you know, talk about our pieces to this huge puzzle.
I was going to say, you guys are connecting the dots on so many levels, you know, and I think it comes to that point where you have to, once you get your timeline in place, I mean, we all know they came this side of the world. It was dangerous for them over there, you know. They had to travel. They were mariners. They were skilled at everything they did.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, another thing too, another piece of this puzzle was sent map that they supposedly used too. So I'm going to be looking at those a little bit. I just got these yesterday, so I'm going to be looking at those for dates, and I obviously want to see the originals, so we can really look at the dating on them and find out whether they're authentic and all those sorts of things. But there's, you know, I'm having a tremendous amount. All the researchers in Brazil have opened up their research to me. Of course, I have to translate everything. I have 3 books right now that I was given by researchers over there that I have to translate now into English. And same thing in Portugal. You know, this whole group of researchers they've opened up their research to me. So it's just like I feel like the time is now. Everybody really seems to want to bring this story forward.
I think the interest is also there. You know, you guys are all doing discoveries on different levels, but I think for the first time in a really long time, even people who are curious about the Templars and who weren't really, I mean, let's face it, most people couldn't tell the difference between a Templar and a Crusader. Right. I've had personal friends say, "Oh, you're just murdering women and babies. I'm like, you need to just shut up. Because I didn't know what the hell you were talking about, and I don't have the patience to listen to you. It's just like, but I mean, when you're looking at everything that you are all doing, and that includes Carl and Hamilton and Wayne Murphy and Gretchen, and you guys are connecting dots on a different level,
right?
And people are curious about it. That they want to know more. They're like, whoa, wait a minute, they were here.
Mhm.
So it's starting to look like it wasn't just a medieval thing in Europe or the UK. Because I mean, let's face it, we're very new this side of the world in standards of civilization, and it's looking like people like, and wait a minute, this could be potentially a piece of our history also, aside from what the history books say.
And I think there's another part to that too. The consciousness, we're all connected, all of us, Shawn and I and Gretchen, all of us, we're all connected consciously. We're all connected. Mm-hmm. And I think that, at this particular time in history, I don't think there's an accident that we've all gotten this urge, or whatever you want to call it, to do this research and to bring it forward. I don't think there's an accident. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that it's
coincidence.
Yeah, I really do. It's almost like a divine,
intervention.
Appointment. The ancient Hebrew word for it is moed. It was an appointment in time. Mm-hmm. We all seem to have this appointment in time to bring this truth forward, and to and what's even more interesting to me is that the public is really they're really wanting truth. They really don't want to hear the old narrative and the stories that they've been reading in their history books, so they don't even believe a lot of that. I can't tell you, if I had $1 for everyone that's come up to me and said, oh, history was written by the conquerors, we don't believe that, or I don't believe that, or I really want to know, what is your take on it? They'll come to me and ask me that. What really happened?
Because people put too much merit in the authority, the authority figures. People put merit into their governments and into their teachers and into the scholars, and they really want to believe that they are being given proper information.
But I think that is starting to fall away.
I think so.
I really think that's starting to fall away. I mean, just like I said, if I was given $1 for everyone that's come up to, I'd be rich right now.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Money. So
but then you find the scholars beat you up over it. They don't want to. They don't want to collaborate with you. They don't think that your research is anything of merit.
Yeah, I've had a lot of that. I've had a lot of backlash, especially with the dates, that I proposed initially, in which and I'm open to the dates. I'm not one of those researchers that says, oh, this is my idea and I'm going to prove it no matter what. That's not how I function. I have an idea based on other graffiti that I've seen in Dome, obviously. Mm-hmm. And that gave me a general idea, and it fits with the narrative. They had the French king was hunting them down. They had the churches against them at that point in time. They had the money, they had the ships, and they were trained. So as mariners, they were trained. They had navigational colleges at that point. So they had the means, they had the money, they had everything to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity. And then when I found out that the cave was a gold mine, it really fit the narrative. Mm-hmm. But I'm still verifying graffiti. I'm verifying a lot of things, trying to get down to some actual dates, because, Shauna, as you know, of course, if you run into, you can't date stone. You can only date organic matter that is either embedded in the stone or into the grooves of the graffiti or whatever.
But can't you look at
compromised? These caves, all these caves over there have been compromised, unfortunately.
But can't you tell the way? Because you both sculpt on different levels, but with stone, can't you tell by the way something was carved? Shawn, in stone, can't you tell, like by the tools they may have used, by certain eras? Is there any way to sort of narrow it down a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously this is one of the things that we were studying on Lost Relics with Carl and Hamilton. regarding the Templar tombstones at Kilmartin, or the Templar tombstone. There's one specific one that is absolutely exactly the same as the ones that Shug Douglas discovered at Ballantrae, sent me the pictures from the ground scan that I'd originally seen at Sinclair Study Centre in 2016. That ground scan was from 2009. But yes, you can validate stone, the markings in the stone. You can tell what chisels have been used. You can see there's sometimes iron residue or steel residue, that comes off the steel into the stone that can be analysed. And, quite often you make a reverse cast of the image to further examine the what tool was used and how sharp it was. For instance, there's so many. It can be quite scientific in the end, and that's what I've been involved in doing. But stylistic considerations and can often tell us from what within 100 years of when that stone was carved, and also the style of the carving, for instance, which varies considerably, and it's all reverse engineering really, and it's that we have that as a science to to give us real information, and that's where sort of I've been involved in as well. So that's how I came to work with Andrew Sinclair and stuff, because a lot of the tombstones that we'd discovered originally, he'd done it really academically through the British Library and so forth. But we needed it, it's sometimes good to have another perspective, an operative perspective, rather than just the academic one. So like Kathleen was saying before, we've got a range of skills and people involved in this Templar quest, and it's getting really exciting. I've never seen so much information being thrown up, and I was involved in all the original Roslin investigations with all these guys now that are and lady writers that are now either elderly or dead.
You're so fortunate. You are the caretaker.
Yeah.
You are. You are. Sorry. Big responsibility, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, I was at the Gorton Monastery doing some stone carving lessons last week, and a psychic lady, very, very tuned in lady, she'd got a key from somewhere, and she said, "I'm supposed to give you this." I thought, "What's this about?" And so I carried this key around with me, sort of next to my heart in my jacket, and then gave her it back next day. And I thought, yeah, I know the significance of that. And then actually, when I got back and checked into my research for Questus, there is, in my book, Questus, it actually says, and it's funny how you forget these things. One of the chapter headings is Angus discovers the key, and there we have it, So how did she, I've never met this lady before, so there's various ways of, getting to the truth, and it's amazing how many different sets of skills people have got to bring it all to the table, so we know exactly where we're going.
Right. Well, are you willing to go to Brazil?
I was going to say, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to slide in here for a second.
See inside this cave, Shawn. The first two times that I went to this cave, I wasn't able to get inside because it was filled with spiders and bats. There were probably 200 to 300 bats living in the back of the cave, and there was at least 1,000 spiders living in this cave. And so when I turned on my flashlight, I was covered with spiders. They were all over my leg. And I just freaked. I, of course, got out of the cave. The same thing with the second time I went into the cave, it was the same problem. There was just thousands of spiders. So this time, miraculously, there were 7 bats and no spiders. Absolutely gone. All of them.
Is it because people have been maybe in there since your discovery?
No.
They don't like disturbances.
I really couldn't explain it, Michelle. It was just bizarre. My photographer, I said, Isaac, we had come prepared to make a fire to smoke them out. We were going to, smoke them out. That's how I had intended on camping at the site, smoking them out, and going into the cave in the morning when they had all left. But we went in just to do a preliminary, video when I rediscovered it again it's been about 3 weeks ago now. And all of the spiders were gone. There was not one spider in this place. And I have no idea why. And when we went back into it again, because I was looking for the other caves that had been mentioned by the fellow that I had interviewed when I first found the cave, the guide that had taken us down there, Liamar, he told me there were other caves. It turns out they're not on that property. They're in another area. But anyway, so we, when we went in the second time, is when I really got some great photos because the light was different. And no spiders. Again, there was no spiders. There was these few bats back at the very end of the cave. And you could also see that, that it was very definitely a gold mine.
I just want to take a moment to say, I've been trying to say this. Wayne Murphy is in our chat room, and he says, Team Templar North America says, hey. Hi, Wayne. We've got you on next week. We're looking forward to it. Shawn, wait. I just want to say the world is so fortunate to have you in this journey with all of the team because of your skill, your art, your craft. I don't think that it would have been able to come as far as it has without you. And I hope that, I know you're very humble, but I hope that you realize that we're all grateful to you for being there.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thanks for that. I was discussing with some friends recently that, it seems to, as you get older and you start to lose your ego and stuff, and I can't say that I've lost all my ego, but
I hope not.
I'm not monastic yet, but the thing is, it does sort of make information seems to be more accessible. It flows more once you try to have some kind of a humble approach to the subject matter, because it's not definite anything at the moment. It's research that establishes facts, but it's not like we're going through reams of, as Kathleen said before, academic history to try and find out dates and what history has taught us. We're coming in from different angles to establish a new truth to some extent, and that's the interesting thing for me. The multiple approaches to getting information. Digging away frantically, and the cave situation with Kathleen and the gold mine, that she's mentioned, is obviously absolutely right up there with the Templars, because of course their whole kingdom in Scotland was established through silver mines and gold mines. The silver mines which they actually stole from the English in Cumbria, and they paid for Selkirk Abbey and lots of great buildings under King David, and there's companies now coming into Scotland hustling to buy gold mines that have got the Templar stamps on it, basically, and so it's still there, it's still active, and there's the greatest. There's the other dimension to this is, where did they get the gold for King Solomon's temple, for instance?
Absolutely.
did the Templars have that information also? I think they did, because
I think they did too.
they were there, weren't they? They were excavating the temple, and we know that. So there's no smoke without fire.
Exactly.
Well
I
said. Well
completely agree, Sean. And I've for a long time believed that they also got a hold of the Phoenician maps while we were over there. And I think that they, the Portuguese were known. They were the navigators, they were the shipbuilders, and they were the sailors in Europe. They were the first ones. So where did they get that information? I think that they most likely had the Phoenician map. So we're still digging for proof on that one, and I'm hoping to find more information on that when I go back into Portugal. So when I examine this map a little bit closer and find out where the origin is of this map, I think that it's going to really open up some information for everyone. So
I think there's going to be some great information shared through Lost Relics, and the work that those guys have done. Carl and Hamilton is just mega, and
absolutely,
I'm really looking forward to this next series. Which is coming about during, I think it's
you guys,
August,
we all have to wait.
September.
Like next week.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I think he said September 12th or something.
Oh, I thought he said
like the
6th.
6th or something.
The 6th?
The 6th. I think they were supposed to be with us the week after.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, it's September.
But the thing is, you're all paving your own way in your own research. You're all leaving your mark. And essentially, that's the path. That's what you're meant to do. They're going to look at Shawn's sculptures and go, yes, this is never going away. This is stone.
Oh,
they're going to look at your discovery and say, screw Columbus. Sorry, guys, but screw Columbus. This is a thing that just made all the history books just pretty much need to be rewritten. And you look at Carl and Hamilton, just the Tamar Horde alone. That doesn't even count anything else they're going to come up with. The Tamar Horde alone, Wayne Murphy with his discovery.
A lot of the relics that Carl and Hamilton showed on television, I photographed those, and those are what I used as pictures to show the Amazonian tribes that I interviewed while I was over there. Because I got a lead that the Amazonian people were the ones that led the Templars into Alto Paraíso, which is central Brazil. Right. And from what I got from the Amazon tribe that I was with, I've been invited back. They weren't the tribe. They were not the tribe, but there were many, many other tribes, and they said there were many people that came in and looked like these people, that they have stories. They have myths that have been passed down, ancestral stories that have come forward in time of these people that came in, that they did take into central Brazil, into other places in Brazil. So it sounds like it's going to be a pretty solid lead. And anyway, so I used those photos. That's what I showed them, these photos, to say, have you seen anything like this? Is there any possibility that a family member, it may have been passed down, someone still has it, maybe it was turned into something else, in like chainmail or anything like that. So we're all using pieces from each other's research, and I think it's fabulous. We're all sharing
it's all full circle. You look at like the Sinclair family and the Templars that came through Scotland made their way across the top and down. So did the group from, I guess here's my question, did the group from Scotland stay to the north, and did we have a group from Portugal go to the south, or are they sort of traveling around?
Well, there's an interesting thing that came to my attention. There was a fellow, a McGregor, his last name is McGregor, that came to me with some information. And I looked it up on Google just to see if there was anything. And I also looked up to see there was a Duncan Maceo McGregor back in 1236. He was born, he died in 1290. Maceo is an ancient Portuguese, also Brazilian nickname for well or water source. There's about 4 different definitions. Why did he have that Portuguese appellation? that was really interesting to me. And he was very obviously Scot. Have you heard anything about this, Shawn?
No, I haven't. But I know of similar situations because the Scots were intrepid travellers, were everywhere. But as we know, so were the Templars, not just involved in military, activity. They were geophysicists. They were travelling the globe and documenting anomalous ruins and all sorts.
Right.
And there's so many people involved in this research at the moment. It's like you feel like you're in kind of a big family. And wouldn't it be great to sort of get some huge forums together whereby we would have maybe, because we used to have these in Scotland, and you'd get maybe 50 or 60, but I'm talking about maybe 100 people together to have presentations, so everybody can be more keyed into what's happening and also bring more to the table. So it needs to be joined up in a company way, if you see what I mean, to really drive this ahead. And I think people would love that, and that's that. I thought I'd mention that tonight on the show, because it's not just about people in the forefront like us. There's loads of people interested in this, and we need to work out how we can move forward together and really start to get to the truth, eh?
Right, exactly. I've had so many people come forward to me personally with information. Some of it has not led anywhere, and some of it has been valid information. But it tells me how many people actually are out there and are really interested in this research and willing to contribute to this research. So I agree, Shawn. I think that would be a wonderful thing to have a panel, or some type of a symposium where we had speakers, and if we could, maybe even an annual thing, something that happened once a year or twice a year or something. We all came together with our research, our latest research, and, answered questions and listened to people tell us what their information might be.
That's a good idea. And I think any forum, any platform that you can use to get your research out there is the way to go. Easy to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was really lucky to. I'm so pleased that Wade Murphy got in touch with me. Wade and Gretchen. Gretchen's a great writer, and Wayne's a fabulous investigator. And we talked of these forums with Wayne and Gretchen, and they agree also. And it'd be a good commercial activity as well to give. To produce funding for further research, not just for us, but for up and coming. You could have a fellowship or something like that. People involved in, that scholarships and things of that nature, and it's exciting to be part of it all.
It really is, and I agree. I think it would be wonderful because, I don't know how much longer I'm going to even. I'm 65. I've got probably another good 20 years of research, and I certainly hope to pass on my research. I certainly hope it doesn't die with me. I'd love to pass it on to someone.
I don't think it's going to do that. I don't think you can have a discovery like that, an award-winning, multiple award-winning films, and it's going to just fade away.
But it would be wonderful to hand those notes over to someone else, who's willing to carry on with this research, and in search of the truth. Because I just think that's been something that's just been close to my heart for many, many years. My father taught me how to research when I was young, and he was the one that guided me in learning, teaching me how to research. And he showed me, we had a huge library, and my father had a photographic memory, so he'd say, "Well, Kathleen, you need the 5th book on the 2nd row, and it's probably around page between 400 and 600, somewhere in there." So I was just fascinated with books and fascinated with, and I remember one day going to him and saying, Dad, I don't understand, because some of these things I'm reading in these books just really don't seem to be true. And he says, now you're on to something, Kathleen. He said, you're not going to learn anything. You're going to learn what's already been written if you read these books. But the real research starts where the books stop. So that was my sort of initiation into finding out things for myself, digging into places, going into, I loved going into these old libraries and old bookstores that had books that were out of print. And they had, I loved that, because I always found gems. I found, wonderful, wonderful books with information that just you can't get if you go on Amazon, or, you look into the libraries today. Most of the books, you really don't get the information. You don't get the in-depth stuff. Everything just about that I've gotten that's been really valuable has been from books that are outdated and out of print. So,
yeah, there's not a whole lot to go on. I think history books definitely need to be rewritten. And I think, right down to even stuff such as, Vikings. They've been finding Viking symbols and such in South America, again, way back. And I just read something recently that they found what looked like to be longboats or village Vikings, and I it eludes me as to where, but it is here somewhere in the Americas, and it was just sort of like, when did you say?
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap, this is really impressive. So the history books are definitely going to be rewritten, whether the scholars like it or not, no matter how much they resist. And I think researchers such as yourselves and the others are going to have to really press that. And that's what the discoveries are about, putting it out there. Yeah. I mean, how much research has been done where people have just sat on it because they're afraid to challenge, the scholars and the archaeologists, and they're afraid of being ridiculed? Or how much don't we know for those reasons?
Right. That's the case in Portugal with this group of people that want to meet with me. They have been afraid to basically come forward until now, and now they're ready to come forward and they want to speak through me. So that's fine. That's good. Mm-hmm. I'm open to hearing whatever they have to tell me.
But you see, you've already paved the way.
Right.
So right. Now it's easy for them because the public has already accepted it.
Exactly. So, and the same thing in Brazil. I just one of my researchers there that interviewed for the second documentary just contacted me, and he said that he has a group of people that he's put together there that want me to come back and speak, and they would like to be able to share research with me. So it turns out that there are a lot more researchers in Brazil than I realized initially. They're all now coming out of the woodwork because of the first film. Right. So already that has, it has benefited all of us, because people are now coming forward that wouldn't have, I don't think they would have otherwise. So.
No, I agree with you. Well, I don't know. It sounds like it's quite a journey. So I guess, I'll have to collaborate with going on. Somebody's got to come and join somebody here. But I see Amelia's ready to do a station ID.
Yes, I want to take a moment really quickly just to say,
I know it's Folgers time.
It's Folgers time. It's Folgers time Wednesday and Thursday every week here on UFO Paranormal Radio. You are listening live from the gorgeous city of New Orleans right now, and you're all in our prayers. We know you're under hurricane watch, so we're thinking about you and grateful to you for tuning in. We are The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. Tonight's wonderful guests are Dr. Kathleen Ball and Shawn Williamson, all the way from the UK. And we are so grateful, honestly. It's really late there for you, Shawn. Thank you so much.
I know, you're a champion.
Yeah. We are International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials Radio. I have to have this all written down, no lies. UPRN Talk Radio, all streaming live right now. And this broadcast and every broadcast every week is brought to you by the great people at Folgers Coffee. Folgers, we love you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Good one. Yeah. Great.
Well, it makes us happy. That's why we're all here.
It's just as well I sleep standing up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a horse.
We'll have to do a pre-record with you next time.
Yeah.
Get y'all spry.
So Shawn, when is your book coming out? I've been on the edge of my seat waiting to find out about that.
Well, I seem to be adding bits. It's been a process, but I'm almost channeling this information as it comes, and there's new bits I'm adding in all the time. But it's going to be ready in autumn for definite. I've been writing it for 2 years since I was in Chile, looking at Templar myths and legends over there in Patagonia and stuff. And midway down Chile, a place called Chiloé, which has got a fabulous sea history. So I started writing it whilst I was there. I didn't originally know why I was there. I'd just gone I had a girlfriend there, and she just happened to have an island in Chiloé.
Wow.
And
just happened to have an island. I hope you kept her.
Well, it was,
I'm not talking about that.
Look, well, at least you got a book out of it. We're good.
No, I'd really like to go back at some point, because I'm still in touch with them all, and it was incredible to get this information from local historians there, and have somebody that could translate Spanish, because I'm not very good at languages. I really like to be able to speak languages, but I've just never clicked with me. But in any case, I got the information that was required, and you see there's so much down there in South Chile about ghost ships, which they call the Kalush. And Chile has always been a place where people have said, most of the renegade Nazis, for instance, went to Argentina. Actually, there was as many went to Chile, because
and
there's just
Brazil.
Areas that you can't get to. And Brazil.
And Brazil too, Shawn.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot of them in Brazil. Yeah.
Well, Paraguay, Uruguay, it's that's a fabulous, interesting dimension. But so anyway, the book has been ongoing since I was in Chile, but it's 65,000 words, and it includes a lot of historical fact couched in the form of a novel, which I think is a better way to get it across, to the public.
Like a historical fiction sort of thing.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
But it's got a rhythm to it. There's a rhythm to it, and there's stuff in it that I'm not going to. Nobody will see it until the book's out. Yeah. But I'm a bit of a blabbermouth anyway. I tend to, tell it all anyway. But there is stuff in there that people don't know, and you'll be quite surprised at how it actually brings us back to biblical times.
Beautiful.
With the deluge theory, shall we say, which is people are worried about at this moment in time. The Earth's in a terrible way, isn't it? With volcanic.
Everything always has a way of coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a recalibration. But I'd like to get the book out before we get flooded out.
Right. Well, chop. We're all waiting for it.
Read it.
Good one, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm really trying to read it. I can't wait to be able to read it.
I wouldn't say you're a blabbermouth, Shawn. I'd say more you're a tease, because you sent me the cover, but you're not talking about it. So you're definitely a tease.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So what's next then? What's next from this point?
Well, what's next for me is to go back into Portugal now because I'm having to rewrite my my priorities. And of course, right now I need to stay put and finish my book. I've also made a commitment with the Hunniquin people from the Amazon that I'll be sponsoring them to come into the United North America next year. So I'm also in the process of connecting them with other tribes in North America, which is what they want to do.
Oh,
And so
nice.
when they come, well, they have a tremendous message for humanity right now. They live a life that is in perfect balance with the ancient ways and technology. I have never experienced anything quite like it. They are some of the most loving and kind people. They did a healing on me in a huge circle. I can't even, I'm not even going to get into that. It's a whole nother program. But I actually shot enough footage that I can do a whole movie on them. They have never allowed anyone from the West to come into their tribe.
Wow. That's a
beautiful.
privilege.
That is beautiful.
Them. They took us into their sacred tree. I mean, it was beyond anything I could even imagine. I went there for an interview to find out if they were connected to the Templars, and what I got was a whole nother movie. A whole complete other film. The chief adopted me as his daughter. I literally was just bawling. I now have 5 sisters, and yeah, seriously,
I love it. It's wonderful.
It was just a beautiful, beautiful exchange of energy, and just absolutely beautiful. So, so that was something completely unexpected that happened as a result of this trip. And I fully believe that they're now dedicated to finding out who were the people that brought the Templars in for me. They want to help me with this. So I think that'll eventually come out. I'll have some sort of evidence in that. I don't know how long that'll take, but that's all part of the journey.
It is. That's what makes it exciting.
Thank you for sharing your trip with us on social media. Thank you for, bringing that energy to us, because it was just the exact thing I was thinking was what you said. I'm seeing you face painted. I'm seeing you surrounded by all this love and all this amazing energy. And then you're taking a selfie. It's just like, that was just fascinating to me. I'm like, wow, the fact that you even got a signal, it was just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with everyone.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I hope to be able to share it with the world, because they have a tremendously powerful message. They are amazing people, just absolutely
beautiful
amazing
people. Yeah, you can read that energy right through every moment that you capture. It was just priceless, precious.
It really was. It was a culture shock for me to come back to the United States.
No, I guess it would be.
Only imagine.
I came back with this open heart and this whole and I, it was a little abrupt. My return was a little abrupt in some ways, but it was it's all good. It's all part of it's all part of where it's supposed to be. And, and I am going to continue to carry their message. So.
Oh, I think that's amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shawn, how about you? What are you going to do next? Well, I know you're going to be back on with us in a little while.
Like a month?
Another month, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just concentrating on some some work at the moment. I'm doing local research at Furness Abbey. This is a Cistercian monastery. Doing my work, finishing my book, and I would have loved to have got out to Wisconsin, but travel restrictions and stuff at the moment it's just too much, really. So I'm hoping to get over to stay with Wayne next. Spring. I know Gretchen's going to be going out to Wisconsin
soon, I think, isn't she?
Yeah.
which is great. And I'm heavily involved at the Gorton Monastery, which is a great research centre. They're building a Grail library, so there's loads of books going into that, into the monastery. And Jill Harbach, she's involved in that.
Oh my God,
That's
I love
marvelous.
her.
Yeah, that's really marvelous.
I love that woman. I'm
and
just putting it out there. I love her so much, Jill.
yeah,
God.
she's great. And
Yeah.
we're our endeavour at the moment is to try to save the craft of stonemasonry, because two major colleges, as a result of COVID in this country, are now closed, that were involved in training young people to be heritage craftspeople. And it's I think there's only one left now at Bath. So we are trying to save craft practice at carving in stone, architectural masonry, that type of stuff. And it goes deeper than that, but it's almost like this onset of technology is hell bent on destroying tradition. And if there's nobody there to repair our buildings and stuff, it's going to go. Buildings collapse quite quickly, especially old ones.
Right.
Yeah,
I've
between
seen
the
some
weather.
horrible deterioration in South America of buildings that are they're just rubble. They really are just nothing left.
Well, the crafts are dying. I mean, just normal trades are dying. But when you're looking into the type of craft of stonemasonry, that takes a lot of dedication. It's not easy. You really have to love it. And I think, again, we've talked about, we've really talked about stones and frequencies and things like that. I really feel that when you're putting that work into that piece of stone, your energy is forever going to be there. It's always going to resonate there. You become, and I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but you become one with the stone. You really do.
I really believe that. There's something that emanates of the artist from the stone. And, I'm real sensitive to energy. So when I go to Egypt and different places, I get visions, which you're aware of. And, I really am able to pick up on the energy from the builders and the sculptors. And
oh, absolutely. You're probably always touching everything, right? Because you just want to lift that energy and be part of it.
I'm always to touch. I used to get in trouble in museums because I always wanted to touch everything. But
I know.
when I was allowed into the monastery where Da Vinci lived in Florence, because I had taken that portrait head of Da Vinci to the museum. They had granted me one wish, basically, was to get into this monastery where Da Vinci had done all his anatomical studies, and I got to see where he lived, where his little cell, everything.
Wow.
Magnificent. I got to go into the library where he studied, and the first thing I do, right, is go to pick up a book. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, and they just froze. They just looked at me and, please put that down, madame. It's like,
yes.
But I don't know what I have to feel.
You. It calls you, right?
I gotta feel it.
Yeah, it
Do you want
calls
to know?
you.
Do you want to know a little fun fact about Da Vinci?
Pardon?
You want to know a little fun fact about Leonardo da Vinci? He went on a hike one day and came upon a cave and disappeared for 2 weeks. And when he came back, he was full of knowledge. And that's when his paintings started. And he started coding things. And he started putting little traces of, if you look back at some of the stuff, you'll see little UFOs up in the corners. You'll see there's things that you can do with his paintings that actually have codes in them. Right. And it happened after that event.
Where did you get that information?
It's all over the place. Easy to find. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll look it up. I've been researching him for years.
Has it been a parallel dimension? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
He went on a hike, showed up 2 weeks later, full of knowledge.
He was very definitely in touch with multidimension, and he was very, very aware of the future, obviously. I think he saw into the future. I think that many of our famous artists have those abilities. As we have it, Shawn, I'm sure you have this too. The ability, you have this, it's like an extrasensual perception. You see things more clearly. You perceive things in order to put that into the stone that you do. And for me in the clay, there's something else that we pick up on, almost like another otherworldly dimensional reality that we bring to the art. And this is why you mentioned, that we're replacing the masonry, and we're replacing these things with this, I call it cookie cutter art and cookie cutter architecture. Basically Walmart value stuff. And the problem with duplicating, even with mold making, the problem with duplicating a piece is you lose that energy. And I became very aware of this when I went into Lascaux, into the fake Lascaux that they created. And I understand why they created it. It's a very valid reason, because it was starting to mold from the body temperature of the viewers coming into the space. It was creating the temperature, which made the mold, and it was deteriorating the glyphs on the walls. So they created a whole nother Lascaux. But the problem was there was nothing to pick up on for me. I picked up on absolutely nothing. I found myself being very frustrated in this space.
I could see that.
Yeah, Rupert Sheldrake, more examines it in detail, what you've just discussed, and it's extrasensory perception, and the idea of the sixth and seventh sense, and strangely, so many animals, not strangely actually, so many animals have these gifts, and it's just learning to think about the planet and how we're connected to it, and all the unbelievable things that occur through nature, like when you examine, when you learn about how a dog thinks through its nose, its olfactory system, it's how it smells is apparently 50 times bigger than our brain capacity to think. So it's just approaching the world. So when it's smelling around and sniffing, it's getting an idea of its ancestors, who was there before it, all this information coming in through its olfactory system. Right. And it's the same, if like in Rosslyn Chapel, for instance, why is there stone beehives? What were they watching about nature that, observing how they the patterns of behavior of bees in Rosslyn Chapel? It's very strange. And when you see that a lot of religious symbols, icons and things like that, they found great swathes of honeycomb in redundant monasteries in Eastern Europe, and they built their hexagonal structures, actually irregular hexagonal structures, because I did a study on these, and it covered everything but the face, so what made them not build honeycomb round the face of the image? It's almost like bees are an indicator of the deeper connection to God and the planet and the balance that we need to sustain it. Not just in this green energy way, but it's deeper than that. It's a connection. It's a connection to its creator, to God, and we know the failures of the West at the moment, and we need to be able to get back our connection to the grace of God.
And Fibonacci was one of the first to recognize that pattern in nature, and I'm just putting that out there because I'm related.
Well, it's really interesting.
Put out a plug for my great uncle.
Oh yeah. You, the sculptor, fabulous. Yeah.
I've got both. I've got the sculptors in Pisa, and I have Fibonacci, who's a great uncle. The sculptors in Pisa are great granddads.
Wow, that's incredible.
All the way to the original. All the way to the original Bonanno.
Wow, incredible. That
but I can't draw, Shawn. Don't be impressed. I can't draw. It didn't fall with me at all. It did not. Sadly, I wish I could, because I love art. I can just be so absorbed by it. I love it. I think it's fascinating what work you both do. It's incredible.
Well, I think everybody's got that gift, and certainly I, from stone carving lessons that I'm, teaching people to stone carve, it enables them to go deeper into themselves, and actually, I'm surprised how quickly people pick it up. It's just like it's second nature to some people, but some people, need to be woken up a little bit, and then they sort of come into their talent. But it's in our DNA, isn't it? It's in humanity's DNA. It was all stone at one point. All these megalithic civilizations, Neolithic,
absolutely,
ancient civilizations, and actually further back than that, according to Plato. So people are trying to rediscover this heritage.
It's
it's funny you say that, because I used to tell my students when I was teaching, I used to tell them, I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to help you remember what you already know.
I love that.
And then
I would
proceed to put a model in the middle of the room. I give them each a hunk of clay, and I'd say, you have 5 minutes to create a visual representation of this piece, a gesture study of this model that you see. And they would frantically, and I showed them, I do a demonstration to show them that you could do it really fast without thinking, to bypass the intellect. That was the key. And then I would go around when they all got done with these sculptures, and they were amazing. They were so proud of what they did. And I would measure them proportionately, and every single one was within 7.5 to 8 heads. Every single one was within proportion. And this happened in 20 years of teaching. So,
and it's just a feeling that you get when you sculpt. Is it just like it just takes you over, and spiritually, that's beautiful.
Yeah, actually, it never ceased to amaze me. I tried it as an experiment with my first class, this was 30 years and years ago, and I was just shocked. And it was like, well, my God, okay, this is great. This is how I can break through all that stuff that they come into the classroom with, that I have to, I call it, we need to get to the point of mushin, which means no mind in Japanese, which doesn't translate very well. It makes it sound like you're an idiot or something, or that you have no mind, or that you're stupid. That's not what it means. What it means is that you are sculpting or painting or whatever you're doing, whatever you're involved in, you're doing it with your whole entire being, with your whole being. And we had a man come from Japan one time came to Sonora, and we invited him to the college to do a demonstration. He was the son of a tea master in Japan, and he sat on that stage. He was a potter himself, and he sat on that stage and he sculpted with his feet and his hands and his entire body, and it was the most beautiful thing. And I told my students, that is mushin. That is mushin right there. That is the best example of mushin I could have ever showed anybody, was right there. You're doing it with your entire being. So it's like, I really believe, and I did a paper on this when I was doing my PhD, that we hold the memory of everything that's ever happened on this planet, everything that's happened since the beginning of creation, in our DNA. Mm-hmm. And that's why when we have conversations with people, things are triggered, memories are triggered. We go to ancient sites, memories are triggered. That's the visions that I get. I know that's what it's from. I've tried it and tested it over and over and over, and it happens every time I travel. So I know that that's true. And then the thing, that I wanted to mention too, as you're talking about the bees, Shawn, is I had a fear of bees. Actually, I didn't when I was a child, but I was stung once, and then I had a fear, and I carried that into adulthood. And finally, during COVID, one of the things that I chose to do was I decided to make friends with my bees in the backyard. They kept falling in the pool, and so I kept pulling them out of the pool. And then what started happening is the bees would come to me every time they had a friend in the pool. No matter if I was up on the deck or wherever I was, and they'd buzz in my face and they'd get my attention. They'd fly back and forth over to the pool and come back. Oh, you want me to get your buddy out of the pool? Okay, so I started getting them out of the pool. The next thing I know, they followed me all over my yard now. They're all, I've not been stung. They land on me. I'm not getting stung. And I've made this wonderful friendship with these bees. It's fabulous.
That's awesome. The givers of life. Without them, we'd be in a whole lot of trouble. Well, guys,
I think we're able to do this with all. I think at one time in our history that we did have this ability, that we were friends, or we were able to communicate on this level with all plants, animals, everything. I think that, in the Egyptian culture, the Kameshan people that I interviewed years ago spoke about 360 senses. I mean, that's almost unfathomable to even, how do you even think about that? But there was a time that mankind had 360 senses, that we were in touch with.
Prior to the technology and the airwaves that fill our skies and our, in our spaces. We are coming to the end of the show, and I know that they're locking down in New Orleans with high winds, and so before we get cut off, okay, Shawn, why don't we start with you? What do you have coming up? How do people find you? Promote. It's time to promote the book.
Google Shawn Williamson Sculptor, and a lot of the stuff that I'm involved with the Templars is covert at the moment. I'm involved in various projects, continuing research. I'm on the, was graciously invited to be with Lost Relics of the Knights Templar with Carl and Hamilton, and still in touch with those guys. It's all good. I've had some very, very interesting stuff coming out now. And, Wayne Murphy, God bless him, and Gretchen, they're great people. Kathleen, Gorton Monastery, so many people coming together now, and you guys as well, hosting this fabulous program.
Thank you.
You do a great job, and giving a stage and a platform to people like us mad researchers. But
it's our pleasure.
We need you.
So just keep up the good work, everybody, and watch this space.
Thank you. Kathleen, you're next.
It's been wonderful. I've just enjoyed this so much. I enjoyed our first conversation a few months back, and this was just fabulous, and I hope that we can continue to connect, because you're a wonderful, wonderful person, human being, and I just enjoy the research and who you are. Thank you so much.
There we go, guys.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And, Kathleen, keep in touch. We'll have you back on, especially when the book is done or the film is done. And Shawn, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay.
There we go. Now you can go sleep. Look how happy he is. Yeah, I'm gone.
I'm packing my cases now. I'll be there.
All right, guys.
Bye. Okay.
Night.
Cheers. Bye.
All right. Good night. Night. Well, everyone, here we come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody in chat. You guys always make it that much more interesting. You really do. Questions and all comments. Thank you to Dr. Kathleen Ball, Mr. Shawn Williamson, producer Joe Montaldo for manning the fort. biggest thank you, of course, to Folgers Coffee for having faith in us to keep going with us. Thank you. We appreciate you. Please remember to stop by the International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. Subscribe, guys. And yeah, UFO Gods, Extraterrestrials. Don't forget about that. But we are United Public Radio. And don't forget that. So if you'd like to communicate with us, if you have any show ideas or comments, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. That's the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. So next week, 2 more amazing guests. Wednesday, we welcome back Gretchen Cornwall. Love her. She's going to be discussing her research on Mary Magdalene and the Grail. That's always a lot of fun. Personal favorite for us. Thursday night welcomes for the first time Mr. Wayne Murphy from Team Templar North America. And he's going to be discussing all kinds of things, Mohican folklore, culture, and he's going to touch a little bit on the North American Templars. So until then, we wish you a really good night and have a fantastic, safe weekend.
I'll be tuning in for both of those shows. I'm really
Thank you.
interested in finding out both of those topics.